Hey guys, this is Ken. We're in my garage again. We are working on the 46 Ford and things are actually going pretty good. It runs well, at least sitting here. And got the power steering hooked up, got the hydroboost on it, and the steering works great. I actually started with a Ford Thompson pump, you know, the old ones from the 70s, and welded a return line on that, and it worked great for the steering, but the hydroboost seemed to get rock hard. And if I just stepped on the pedal, it seemed to be working really hard. It slowed the motor down and everything. And I thought, well, maybe it was that pump. And this is hydroboost, if you're wondering. It uses the power steering pressure to operate your brakes. Most large trucks and diesels and stuff and all that have hydroboost brakes on them. But anyway, it seemed to be really lugging down the motor and straining really hard to provide brakes. It worked fine when the motor was off and we were bleeding them. Everything seemed to be great. I had good pedal feel. And then once after the first startup, I've had rock hard pedal since then. So I thought, well, maybe the pump is providing the wrong pressure, or the pressure relief isn't working, or whatever. So I stuck on a Type 2 pump, or 3, I don't know which one it is. Anyway, it's from a Ford F450 with hydroboost on it. So I know it's very similar to the one that came with this original setup. And all of this stuff came from a local junkyard where I could just pull it all off as a unit, the pump, the hoses and everything, and put it on whatever I have. And I did that with the Nightmare Mustang over there, and it's worked flawless ever since. So I'm trying to diagnose what's wrong with this. And I had it running the other day, and I just touched the brake pedal, and the hose that provides the pressure from the pump to the hydroboost would actually move. I mean, it would really jerk. So I knew it was developing extreme amount of pressure just touching it, and I could hear the pump strain like I had turned the steering wheel all the way to one end and back, or you know, and held it there against the stops, and then you hear your power steering pump strain. Well, that's what it was doing, just touching the pedal a little bit. So I thought, well, that's odd. Either there's something wrong here, because this is the stock hose setup, not the braided line, of course, but it flows through just fine for the steering. But this line over here, the pressure line, is the stock one, now has a stock pump, stock master cylinder. I thought either the cylinder is frozen, so it can't push forward, or there's something wrong with the hydroboost. So to diagnose that, I took the nuts off that are holding the master cylinder on, and I pulled it forward a bit so that the pump rod in here was not against the cylinder in here. And as soon as I touched the pedal again, it did the same thing. The hose jumped. I can see it. I can actually reach in here and push the pedal and watch things. And the pump strained. So, and the rod hadn't even touched the master cylinder yet. As soon as the rod touches the master cylinder, I see it push the cylinder out, so then I know it's touching. So that means that the master cylinder had nothing to do with it also. So now I've replaced the pump. I have a stock supply line on it. The return line is working properly. It's going into my reservoir with no pressure against it. So it's got to be in here. There's got to be something wrong with this hydroboost setup on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the master cylinder away. I've got these started loose here. I've got my hold down brackets pulled off the nuts, or the posts that hold the master cylinder on. And I'm simply going to pull these off, pull this out of the way, undo everything inside, slide this out far enough to get it out of the way, and then I've got another one I'm going to stick in here. So that's what you're watching today. So bolts of this are done. I'm going to see if I can move it away. I'm going to get this out of the way. Everything's got to come off. So let's make it happen. First, the return line. Whoa, you guys just went for a roll. Let me make sure you're still pointing in the right direction. That was scary. I almost dumped you on the ground. You're on a tire, just so you know, so you will be rolling around. In order to get close enough to see what I'm doing, I had to set my tripod on the tire. And the tire is off the ground. I probably should put a stop on it. I'll probably do that here shortly. Let me get some more rags. Here we go. All right. These are 18 millimeter here. This is, the pressure flows in on this line, flows out on this line. So it flows in on the passenger side, or the drinker's side, depending on who you're watching. Out on the driver's side. You may lose some fluid on this one. This should be an O-ring fitting. Hopefully it is, because that's what my other one is. Oh yeah. And it's in there tight. Hopefully we don't ruin the O-ring getting it out. You ever had one of these that's really giving you a problem? I may have an answer. Now these tools pull push pins and the plastic clips, and can also be used on your door handles in the old style. But it also goes around that hose, and that allows me to get a little leverage. Maybe not enough. Actually need something right there to give that even more leverage. There we go. And we are losing a little fluid. And we dropped my wrench, but let's make sure that O-ring is all right. No, not really. We may have to hunt up another O-ring for that one. I don't know if you can see it right here. That's a split in the O-ring. It looks like it was sealing and it was split already, but I don't want to chance it, so we'll take a look and see if I can find another one. You're going to leak all over, aren't you? I got that up so far, it doesn't want to come down. So, comedy errors there. But by turning it, we should get it loose. Yep. There we go. It's a coming. There it is. It's moving. All right, that one's out. Hopefully this one pops out easier than that one did. Maybe not. Oh, I like hydroboost, especially when you don't got enough vacuum to run the regular vacuum booster. And that wasn't the case in this motor when I had the flat tappet cam in it. Before it destroyed itself, it was idling with 17. No, I shouldn't say idling, because I never really had it down to idle, but it was working at about in the 20s for vacuum. There, we got that one out, and we didn't ruin that O-ring. Yes, so at least one win here today. Stay up there and out of the way, please. That'd be good. All right. Anyway, with the roller cam, however, it is a thumper camshaft, so it's made to idle with a thump, you know. And they do that by putting in a ton of overlap, and that creates a lack of vacuum. So, no fun. Well, let's loosen these down here. I don't know if you can see those. Let me tilt down there. Oh yeah. So I've got a couple of nuts right here in the bottom of your screen holding the distribution box in place. And I believe they're 1/2 inch. So I might just take the 1/2 inch one off the firewall and do one instead of two. That makes sense. This one on the firewall, can you see that one down there? Well, yeah, you're right. It's right below the wiring nuts. Maybe you can't, but anyway, it's just from a stud that was left on the firewall. Any studs that were in this original firewall to begin with, I simply left them in place unless they would hit the valve covers. And that's been really helpful for a number of things. Okay. Hopefully, that's one of the reasons you put in coils. The original reason to put in coils here is so that there is some wiggle room when the things move and torque and twist, and they look cool, so that's why they're there for me. But they also allow you to move things if you have to, and there's coils down here where the front lines come out, and there's coils in the back for there's coil in the line going to the back as well. And the idea is just so I can get things moving a little bit. There we go. Now our master cylinder is off. We're not leaking fluid anywhere so far. There is a little bit of moisture back down in here. That's not supposed to be there. All right. There's 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, that stick through the firewall. They're swedged onto here, so they're not going anywhere, or pressed in. But I've already taken the 4 nuts off of there. And the rod that comes out is held on to my brake pedal by a pin, and I pulled out the keeper there. And so it's actually ready to come out. I'm gonna see if I can get it out. Feels like I got something holding over there. There's a washer on this far one that hasn't come off, and it's sitting sideways enough to hold everything in place. So that should do it. Well, should have done it. Let me check, see what else is holding on it. Ah, I see it. You guys want to see it? All right. If you're looking from in here, the upper right-hand stud had some ground wires on it. Can you see it up there? Oh, we're getting flicker from the LED light. There we go. This one up here, there's a star washer jammed in there. It's halfway in, halfway out of that hole. So that's what's holding it in there. I've got to shove this back in and then get in there with a little pick and pull that star washer off of that stud over there. Now there's the culprit. It's half broke now. Now, why was the star washer there? Well, because I had some ground wires there and I wanted to make sure they grounded well. And star washers are great for grounding. Let's try again. Let's try again right here. Oh, look at that. There's the bad boy we don't think is working. Hang on, let's put in the other one. All right, this is the second one. And one thing to note when doing this is the length here, from here to here. Make sure that it's right for your pedal, because you don't want any pressure on this to begin with. So this is the exact length of the previous one. and it should sit in there perfectly. And if I say it again, maybe it will actually fit in there. It should fit in there perfectly, but it's not going to. The distance from here to here is greater on this one than it is on that one. These two studs are too far apart. They're right this way, too far this way. Well, that's fixable. That big old nut right there comes off, and that plate comes off. So that's what's next. All right, here we are at my mess. Old, new. The mounting plates are different. So we've got to fix that. And there's a big snap ring and a big nut here that's got to come off in order to replace this one with this one. So let's get to that. I'll grab some snap ring pliers and we'll get that snap ring off first. I've never taken this apart before. I know it comes apart, but I've never done it. So you and me together here. Turn up so you can see it. There's snap ring here. And I'm trying to get into it. It is twisting up and making a mess of itself. Screwdriver. There it comes. A little bit of persuasion. That's a pretty flimsy for that big a snap ring. Alright, let's get the one off this one too. Stand it up so you guys can see it. Here's your snap ring. I'm spreading it with these pliers here and then trying to get it off, but it's really thin and it doesn't come off straight. Kind of gets all kinked and waddled, and I'm going to use a screwdriver to get it started. There we go. That one's much better. We'll use that one when we put it back together. This one's got a little difference in opinion of where they want to be. Alright, big nut. Not sure what I got big enough to fit that. Going with a big crescent wrench. And then how can we get around everything to get it to turn? Oh, it's not big enough. Wow, I mean, it's right on the cuspices. So, what do we try next? First, we're going to try these. If that doesn't work, we're going to try this one. Tell you, we're getting into Mondo size here. Have to go call some of my bigger friends. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Very not so much. Oh, yeah, that's not moving. But I have an idea too. I have another idea. I'm going to give it a little persuasion with an air chisel. So, give me a moment. It's going to get loud. You know, I say give me a moment, but when I edit it, for you guys, it is just a moment. Actually, I had to go dig my air gun out, turn on the compressor. Decide if it's going to work or not. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the flat, and I'm going to knock it a few times in hopes that it loosens the nut a little bit. That would be a really happy thing. I'm not saying it's going to. I'm just going to say we're going to do it. And it's going to slide off, and it's going to move this thing around. So, let's see what happens. I think I did see it move. We may be in something here. I'm gonna keep after it. Gonna whap it again, see if it moves anymore. It is moving. So we are succeeding in getting it to move. I'd just like to not have to air hammer it to death to get the whole thing to unscrew. If anybody knows an easier way, please let me know. For gosh sakes. All right, you're too far. Back up there. Wow. All right, we're just going to keep using the air hammer to get it unscrewed. Nice way to beat up that nut, but man, if that's the way it's going to take it to unscrew for a little bit, that's what we're going to do. That moved quite a bit that time. You see that? You see that move? Yeah, success. Holy cow. Who'd have thought you need an air hammer to take bolt off, or nut off? But it did it. And there we go. That's your plate. Whoop, whoop. That's why I wear safety glasses everything I do. That and my wife would shoot me if she saw me without them out here. All right, just one attempt to grab it and see if it'll move. It actually gives me a little more working room with these two posts that far apart. You know, why would they move them apart? Same model, same models. Well, I guess 450 versus the 350, but really there's not a big difference here. Why would this be? Why? I mean, they're both pickups, right? There it goes. Yes. I don't recommend that for the way to remove a bolt or a nut, but I guess you do what you got to do. It's still in there pretty tight. I'd like to just turn it with that. Oh yeah, there we go. Now, this vehicle was wrecked from the rear, so I know it wasn't brake failure. I can't remember what this vehicle's issue was that I took that from. Boy, look at that. No wonder they bite so hard. That is not unscrewing. And there we go. Swapping plates. By the way, your hydroboost can be put on. You ever use this stuff? It's actually Corrosion X. But yeah, I broke the spray bottle valve off, so I drained the pressure out and put it in that. But it comes in a can like that. Corrosion X, that's the best rust penetrant oil I've ever used. It's pretty amazing. All right, now I'm sure we want that on there tight. How many of you are laughing at me right now? Because that was the most stupid thing. I'm busy talking with you and doing dumb stuff. Who caught it? Let me know in the comments. Would have worked better if I put it on these sticking out, right? But at least I didn't try to install it first. Also, did you know your hydroboost doesn't have to go on this way? You can turn it sideways. You can turn it the other way. All right, we had to do a little camera reset there. Now we've gotten this screwed back on, and I haven't tightened this up. I'm going to try to turn it with this. If I can't turn it with this, I'm going to actually hit it with the air hammer the same way we took it off. Let's make this just a little bigger. I'm not sure how tight it needs to be. Anybody know the torque spec? All right, I'm going to set this in my vise. See if you can see my vise in there. Picture, probably not. Let me turn just a little bit. Let's vise this baby up and put a big crank on it as best I can. That's it, huh? All right. I'll go sideways. It's in the vise. There's power steering fluid everywhere. We're going to call that good. It's definitely down tight. Power steering fluid running out all the holes. Let's go put this back on the truck. All right. All right, here we are. You like the little spacer I made? The reason for that spacer is this was pushing too far in originally, and it would didn't fit with my pedal in there. So that spacer holds it out just the right amount. All right, I'm gonna stick some nuts on the side. All right, well, maybe you can see up here. This is where the hydroboost is coming through. There's 4 nuts, which we have to stick on there. Wiring's a little messy still. I'm I'm working and getting it all in wire looms now that it's all in here. I have some extra. The painless harness I bought, well, let's just say it's usable, but it had wires, some wires I didn't need, some wires I did. I'm right in your way, aren't I? Can't see a thing. See my damn arm. Alright. Let's see if we can get these things tightened in there. 3 of them I can get with the gun, the ratchet. And 1 of them is this. Now here's something we need to look at. Where's the pedal? There we go. See, the pedal can move further out than the rod, so that's good. That means that there's no pressure sitting against this rod when I hook up the pin. It's floppy loose. And this is my brake switch. It's pretty simple. When you step on the brake, the pin moves backwards just a little bit and it pushes back on this plate and that turns on the brakes. It's pretty darn easy. It's not easy getting it all lined up with one hand. But there it is. It's in there. And it takes this pin, just drops in the hole right there. Like that. And there she is. That'll give us some brake. Let's come back out and finish this up. All right, that's in. Let's see if this will line up. And we did measure the pin to make sure that was the right distance. So we're good there. And it sits right down in like that. It actually looks like the pin might be hitting the master cylinder a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a gap right here. We don't want that gap there. Yeah, that's going to cause the master cylinder to push back against it just a little bit. And I don't want that. So let's get these hoses hooked up so they don't drain all over, and we'll fix that. That one. Get that one. We'll hook the clamp up in a little bit. We may have to pull it off to deal with it a little more. We need an O-ring for that one. I keep multiple assortments of O-rings just in case. See if I got one that looks like it's the right size. That might do it. Careful with this one, just in case I have to put it back on. I hope not. It's a little fried. Oh no, that's going to work great. That's a nice fit. All right. Let's pull this hydroboost off, or the master cylinder off again. Come on. One freaking, you were just off a second ago. What is up now? You can't be that way. Okay. I got it. I don't think this screws in. No, it doesn't. All right, well that Didn't measure like it stuck out further than the other one. I'm actually going to measure it again. Hang on. Okay, it sticks out. It sticks out 1 inch on the other master cylinder, which is what I thought it was measured on this one. It's 1 inch on this one too, so that shouldn't be bottoming out. Let's see how deep the hole is. 1 7/16, so that means that has to be 7/16 or more. And that is 5/8. So what does that correspond to? That corresponds to 10/16. So this is 10/16. My hole is 1 7/16 deep. This is 1 inch out from the master cylinder. That means I have 3/16, or basically 1/8 of an inch of space between the end of this rod and the bottom of this master cylinder bore piston. So that should not be pushing against the piston. That's where I'm going with all this measurement. Measure the distance from here to here. That's 1 inch. Measure the distance from the piston face inside, the distance from this edge to here, and then this distance here, because this is going to have to be subtracted because it goes into there. So that's what I did. That's what we came up with. All right, so we did our measurements, and it shouldn't be pushing on the piston. So let's check it out one more time. No, it walks up there. It's all the way. We're good. We're good. So we measured how far out it stuck from the hydroboost, how deep a space we had in our master cylinder, subtracted the lip on the master cylinder that goes into here, and we still had 1/8 of an inch before that rod hits. So that's good. That's what we want. That is all we need. Now let's get all this hooked up. I'll tell you what, if this master cylinder ever fails, I'm going to grab one from the F450, because this is a 350, and the master cylinders come out, the brake lines come out on this side. On the 450, it comes out on this side. Figure that one out. On this side it's going to be fun because this one's turning too. 13 millimeter on this side. I'm thinking. Yep. Lines on, lines on, lines on. Gotta push this clamp down where it belongs. Right there. Perfect. All right, return line. Line coming in, line coming out. Return line for the accumulator. I really don't like this hose cover, but it certainly protects the hose, so there it is. The master cylinder is bolted on tight. I got one more bolt to bolt up in there, but once that's all done, I'll bleed the hydro brake system. I'll fire it up and I'll bleed it, and that'll be it. So as soon as I get that bolt tightened in there, I'll start turning the wheels, and you guys can watch me bleed the system, I guess. All right, hang on. All right, so we're gonna bleed the hydroboost system and the power steering all at the same time. My wheels are off the ground, and all I'm doing is turning the steering wheel, and I'm just gonna turn it back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, until I'm pretty sure that we've moved fluid throughout the system before I start it. And I have a little sight glass right here. I can see that it moves up and down, and I can hear the bubbles coming into the power steering unit. And then I got to add more fluid. this reservoir is actually not a power steering reservoir. I hate to buy things Chinese made, but a lot of stuff is. Even if you think it's made in America, it's actually probably built over there or manufactured there and assembled here or sold here, whatever. But this started out as a coolant tank on that Jungle website. Super cheap. There was no way I could buy the aluminum and TIG weld this together myself at that price. And it came with fittings on this side. It came with this sight glass on this side. They're interchangeable side to side. It's got plugs. It had a hole down here to drain it. But I utilized that hole. I just TIG welded it on a 1/2-inch tube here, which is the same size as the supply tube on the Fords. So it just all went together for a ridiculously low price. Couldn't believe it. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, some people say that you should move your wheels without the steering wheel to bleed. I'm telling you, it does the exact same thing whether you turn the wheels or whether you turn the steering wheel. The fluid moves the same. So don't struggle with the moving the tire if you can just spin the wheel back and forth. And you can hear the fluid moving. And gurgling, giving you an indication of whether you've gotten all the air out or not. And people say you got to do it so many times, do it 100 times. No, not really. Just do it enough to move the fluid through the lines. If you got a rack, you probably got to do it a little bit more because you got to have the fluid down in the rack or hydroboost or something like that on the steering. But all we're doing is passing it from this port to this port, or to this port to this port, down here to the box, comes back out of the box, goes into here. The accumulator on my hydroboost, a little tin can on the back side there that you can't see, that's the only thing now we have to fill up, and the only way we'll fill that up is by starting the engine and pressurizing the system. So that's next. Hey guys, we have success. This is awesome. The hydroboost system works perfectly. I had the motor running. Had to let it warm up, of course. Step on the brakes. The first few times it was iffy. Power steering pump was working a little bit, stepping down hard. But once the accumulator filled up and all the air bubbles were out of it, I can stomp on the brakes. Doesn't weight the motor down heavily. You always will get a little RPM drop with the hydroboost because it puts some stress on the power steering pump. But this was minimal, maybe 50 RPM loss at an idle. So that's great. Before it was just trying to kill the motor. So it's a win. Junkyard parts. Sometimes it takes two. All right, get out there and work on your stuff, guys.